Bumblebee in 3D, being released this week for the first time on 3D Blu-ray by the good folks at Turbine. Similar to Mission Impossible, Bumblebee had been available for a brief period of time in 3D on some streaming services, which is where my clips come from today. The somewhat forgotten installment of the Transformers movie, this one departs from the unrelenting spectacle we've come to expect from Transformers to deliver something of a remake of the old Love Bug Herbie movies, which I'm not sure who was asking for that, but okay, whatever. It has a fantastic opening. Despite looking like a cartoon, it's a fun blast through the robot home world. Our first 3D look at Cybertron lets us peek just a bit into the cracks of the planet. Although the conversion is very clean, very detailed, very well done, what really makes it come alive is just the epic stances that the robots take, never missing an opportunity to aim their weapons out of the screen. Once on Earth, the 3D actually seems to get better, although that might be because the background is less exotic, so I am not paying as much attention to it. A tree just doesn't get my attention like an alien skyscraper does. So that lets me appreciate how strong the 3D is for anything within 20 feet of the camera. Within that circle, the forced shots are wonderfully spaced. It seems everything that could possibly be cropped out is. Look at the gun barrels and notice how much separation they are given. When seen at a distance, the 3D strength seems to be scene dependent. Here, although the background is a bit shallow, they really have those missiles fly in from above the screen, which looks terrific. The movement is where the eyes go, so it makes sense to give that a bit of a stereo push. But elsewhere, like during a few shots having us travel along a simple ride through the hills, we get a nice hyper stereo view, showing us tangible bumps in the landscape. So many 3D movies won't do that. If it's distance, it's usually left flat, although realistic and possibly cheaper to produce. I'm glad they chose differently here. Here I also noticed that it helped elevate my interest in the movie. This is a movie that has a really action-packed beginning and, of course, a big action-packed ending, but the middle can be described as merely a variety of hijinks strung together, and something as simple as taking a moment to ooh at some bumpy hills kept my attention from drifting off screen. There was some expansiveness that felt a bit odd. The family house looks as wide as an airplane hangar. Now, visually, it's a lot of fun, not complaining, just kind of curious why that is. I wonder if that's the result of the 3D conversion, or if the set was just built that way to accommodate a few scenes with the robot. There are some great 3D shots of our main character. Charlie is her name, looking through the beetle while it transforms, giving us a great display of mechanical spaghetti that stereo loves to play in. There's a plot point about Charlie being a mechanic, and we spend lots of time in a garage and also visit a scrapyard, both places that would normally be terrific stereo canvases. Here, though, these locations don't really offer too much to see, surprisingly. The camera just wasn't having any fun in the yard, and it mainly was left in the background. And Charlie keeps a surprisingly clean and uncluttered garage. I don't know whether to be impressed or horrified. According to the comics, Bumblebee is 15 feet tall. In the video games, 16 feet, and in the first Transformers movie, they pegged him at around 17 and a half feet. The standard garage height is about 8 feet, with exceptional ones being 10 feet. Luckily, Charlie happens to live in a house with a commercial-sized garage, for some reason. Elsewhere, there's a little bit of holographic displays. Translucent stuff is always fun in 3D. It might actually be my favorite thing to see in 3D. We also get robot vision tracking overlays, which are nicely spaced above what is being looked at. And this one shot of good old-fashioned reflections that is so well done that the conversion team must have been working with compositing layers like they do in Marvel movies. Jonathan from Variety Films liked to likes to call this 2.5D, which makes for an argument that compositing-based conversion isn't really a 3D conversion, but a legitimate 3D image, as it doesn't take from the flat version of the movie, but creates its own product from the raw material through a separate pipeline to create a similar but independent result. Now, this movie may lack the onslaught and variety of the earlier Transformers movie, but what it does have is given beautiful stereo treatment, and the slower pace is a benefit in the 3D world. It gives you time to see the images. Things stay on the screen for a while, and there's never a flurry of split-second action edits, and that just gives your eyes time to soak it all in. Story-wise, if this was the only Transformers movie ever made, I might be a bit disappointed, but it's not. At this point, it's tough to keep track of how many Transformer movies there are, and in that context, it's actually a nice change of pace. Charlie's character arc felt a bit shoehorned in with a conclusion so forced that I burst out laughing when the moment arrived, but it was better than doing nothing, and it's okay to not always be realistic. We dream and think in symbols, so what if the plot is more symbolic than practical? It's a giant robot movie. One note, it took me a while to realize this movie was set in the 80s. It didn't seem to have much bearing on the plot, and really it felt like an afterthought. I guess Stranger Things had debuted 2 years prior to this movie, so maybe they were trying to ride those coattails. It's not a bad movie. It's made much more enjoyable by the strong 3D conversion. As far as I'm concerned, that's the only way to see this. And it'll be very nice to do away with the ripped copy and get a sharpened up disc which includes Atmos sound, which isn't normally on the 3D editions of discs. To buy this, visit turbine.de, which actually, you don't buy it there. Click on Shop, and it takes you to turbine-shop.de. And once you arrive, find the little flag and click on English. Not everything switches to English, but enough to complete an order. Click on Catalog and find the Blu-ray 3D section, and look at all the cool 3D movies they have. Oh no, some are selling out. Now, it's a pretty simple shopping cart process to get your copy. These movies have English audio and are region free, so anyone in North America can enjoy this.